Hi guys, Ollie here. Today what I want to talk about is how a beginner might approach learning a language. This has come directly from my own experience of learning Cantonese from scratch recently. It's an ongoing project, and you can see videos of my progress on the channel and on the blog. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dissect my routine. I don't know whether to call it a routine or a method. To a large extent, if it is a method, it's dictated by my routine and by the time that I have available. So what I'd say, the caveat that I'd give to this is, if you try and imitate this method, it's unlikely to work for you because you are unlikely to have the same routine as me. Although at the moment it is a fairly typical sort of 9 to 5 routine, so it may work for you. If I were to move to another country, say if I were to move to Spain next week, which doesn't sound too bad, then I would almost certainly change my approach because my schedule and my routine would change as well. So here goes. Number one, what I've done is to work through a series of lessons, or a series of sort of pre-packaged beginner lessons. Personally, I used Cantonese Class 101, FSI Cantonese, and Teach Yourself Cantonese, these 3 series. I'll put the links in the notes below, but essentially, whatever language you're learning, the idea is to get hold of a beginner course book, Teach Yourself type series. The reason is that, for a beginner, you basically need access to a lot of high frequency language, some basic grammar structures. It's not rocket science, and I think most courses would tend to approach it the content would be kind of similar. So if you can find a quality course, someone's gone to a lot of effort to pre-package all this stuff and put it in accessible dialogues, choose appropriate language, present it in a way that's easy to understand. So if someone's gone to all this effort, use it. It can certainly work, or it can certainly help anyway. Now what I do with this is I tend to, if we take the example of this Cantonese Class 101, there's lots of podcast series out there. What I do is quite simply just listen to them in the car on the way to work, on the way back, and I'll do that every day. But what I'll do is I won't tend to listen to one ad infinitum. I'll tend to listen to one a few times, sort of get the gist of it, pick up some of the vocab and the grammar, and then I'll move on to the next one. So over the course of, they are sort of 10-minute lessons, so over the course of the 5-day week, I might have listened to maybe, say, 7 or 8 of these lessons. The reason I do this is because I don't rely on this for my learning, but I do want the exposure to the language. Learning isn't a linear thing, so it's not the case that if you listen to each podcast, say 10 times, you will have absorbed all the material from that. So what I want to do is basically expose myself to that language and sort of approach it from quite a broad perspective. What I then do is I will go home, and then I'll spend 1 hour, sometimes more, but at least 1 hour. That's my daily allocation. It's 1 hour of concentrated study time. It's not the same as listening in the car. You're not going to learn a language by listening to a podcast in the car. You haven't got the concentration. So what I do is I sit down for an hour and I go back over these lessons that I've been listening to over the last few days and dissect them. I'll listen to the dialogues. I'll follow through with the script, which in the case of an Asian language is extremely important. I'll look at any of the grammar points and exercises that they may have. I won't do all of them. I'll pick and choose what I think is useful. So I'm essentially taking the broad exposure from the lessons that I listen to in the car, and then I'm taking it home, and for an hour every evening I'm getting stuck in. I'm looking at it in detail, and if I've got any questions, I might pursue those questions with people on the site or elsewhere. Okay, and the reason that I do this is because you have to have some kind of focused study time, as I said before. It's absolutely critical. Without this struggle and this real full-on engagement with the language, you don't get anywhere. An hour a day doesn't sound... Does it sound like a lot? I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like a great deal to me. But it's actually quite a lot if you think that's your focused study time. And then all the other things kind of built around your day also contribute. So it seems to be kind of working fairly well for me. The next thing I will look at is production. I want to start producing the language fairly early on. So I do two things. The first of which I've been going onto a website called Lang8. Again, links in the notes below. It's a site where you can write something and have it corrected by a native speaker. This is great because it gives you the opportunity to experiment with producing what you've learnt, and it's a safe environment. It's not in real time, like a conversation would be, so you have plenty of opportunity to analyse what people have been saying. So the reason I do that is to get some production, to start getting the language out there, and to get some feedback on what I've been doing. It's the beginning of the production process. The second thing that I'll do is find a language partner. I've talked about this before. It's not a teacher. It's someone who you sit down with and basically try and speak. My approach is basically how do I say XYZ in Cantonese? And they tell me, I try and produce it, and I try and change it a bit. So this is the next stage of the production. This is a bit of a sticking point because a lot of people don't like to start speaking at the beginning. Now, my only feeling about this really is that production, in other words, speaking with people, is what motivates me. It's what I find most interesting. It's what I'm doing it for. I want to be able to speak to people. It's what I find enjoyable. So I don't get put off by the stress of it, because it is stressful trying to speak to someone in a foreign language that you hardly know. It is stressful, so some people don't like it. Personally, I do, and it does it for me. So that's why I do it. And I think because I like it, it has the great advantage of scaffolding you up into speaking with native speakers. And of course, if you can find a good language partner, you also get lots of feedback. And it's a virtuous circle. I won't obviously speak with a language partner every day. I will write on Lang8 every day if I can. And then maybe 2 or 3 times a week I'll meet with a speaking partner and produce the language that way. The sixth thing that I'll do is, after this study time, if you like, the listening to podcasts in the car, the hours concentrated study, and then the production on Lang8. After that, it's the end of a long day. I can't do much more than that, so it's kind of fun time, if you like. It's relaxation time. In the past, I might have stuck on a film or watched a bit of TV. Actually, I still do that, except I do it in Cantonese. So I try and find things that I'm interested in, or that I find enjoyable, and then I'll just watch it. I'll try and find stuff with subtitles, and I won't take it too seriously. I'll watch whatever it is, the film. I'll do my best to understand it, but I'm essentially enjoying it and just letting it sink in. And I think because I've done that concentrated hour of study earlier on, there's not so much pressure then to understand everything in the film and to really understand. You can kind of accept that you don't understand it, because you don't. Understanding films is a long way off, certainly where I am at the moment. So yeah, you can just enjoy it, and you can just derive pleasure from it, which at the end of the day is what it's all about. So yeah, that's what I do there. And then the last thing, which is number 7, is, and this relates to everything that I've done up to this point. When I've been studying, what I do is I, on an ongoing basis, make an effort to identify words and phrases which are interesting to me. By interesting, I mean usually it's words and phrases that I think have got a high value to me at this stage. So it's not all words, not by a long shot. It's words and phrases that I think I'm likely to want to use and will give me more expressive capabilities in the language. I won't get into what they are, but I won't learn the word for elbow, but I will learn the word for if, for example. And this vocabulary, I put it all into a spaced repetition system. I just stick it all on my iPhone. You can see plenty of posts on the blog about what a spaced repetition system is. It's essentially a flashcards program that brings the flashcards up again and again depending on how well you know them. And my routine is, with all this vocabulary, words and phrases in my spaced repetition system app, I then do 5-10 minutes of those words and phrases before sleep and when I wake up. So last thing at night and first thing in the morning, to reinforce everything that I've been doing. Because after all, at the early stages, this acquisition of vocabulary is the number one thing. So that's it. That's the routine that I've been using. Let me run through it one more time just to recap. So it's working through a series of lessons, be it on a podcast or from a Teach Yourself type book. It's listening to these lessons on a daily basis in my free time or in my dead time, as it were, commuting, waiting for something. And I won't take that too seriously. I'll just play them over and over and try and absorb them. It's the hour of concentrated study in the evening, reviewing those lessons from the podcast. It's then some production by trying to write on a website such as Lang 8. There are others. It is not every day, but a couple of times a week, speaking with a conversation partner and practicing speaking. Number 5. Number 6, it's using what really is free time, I guess my downtime, my relaxation time, to do whatever I'd normally do, but do it in Cantonese. So watching TV, watching films, sometimes music. Well, there's not a great deal of good Cantonese music, to be honest, but there are a few good things. I can let you know if you're interested. And then number 7, taking all of the vocabulary, words and phrases from all of everything I've been studying and then reviewing it before I go to bed and when I wake up on the spaced repetition system. So that's it, guys. I'm going to be writing this post in more detail on the blog in the coming days, so please check it out. iwillteachyoualanguage.com. Look forward to seeing you on the site.